Buffalo Plus, your interactive look at the week in football. Brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
Nah, I wasn't stirring up. Y'all need to stay off my Twitter.
That's a little weird.
Oh, one game closer. Let's go.
Bills Mafia, what's up, baby?
I'd like to think I'm not too much of a psychopath.
Y'all know we're headed for, you know what I mean? Rolls Royce driving, private jet flying.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Go Bills.
All right, welcome back to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. It is a very special day on the podcast. We are doing our road game draft between Dan Fates and myself, Mike Catalana, joining us as well. Of course, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Before we get started, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast if you enjoy our content. Later on, we're also going to do a mailbag as well to get to some of the questions you all had heading into the season. It's really great questions, too, honestly. A lot of range will be covered as well. I do want to say before we get started, hand up. The contractor was in my house last episode. Should have muted the microphone. I didn't. That's on me. That will be noted for next time.
Hey, Jenna, you're the second worst microphone.
Well,
that we have.
That's what I was just going to say. Chuck in the background is not the microphone. And by the way, just a heads up here. This is a different microphone. I sent my other one back. It has been replaced. And if we have issues today, hand up, as Jenna says, it's totally on me. I don't know what interference I have, but, we have some Atlanta Braves hand signals, cap signals.
What do you say now, kid?
Let us know.
So if you hear static, Mike's mic has been cutting in and out for the last month. And we have had to...
Yes.
So we have been stopping the pod, and I have been cutting it out, and we've been restarting different parts of the podcast. This is the behind the scenes because Mike's mic sounds staticky. So if you've heard any static, we are now trying not to cut the podcast. If you see the signal, the signal mic that Mike's is working on his microphone to improve it for the rest of this podcast.
Yeah. So, also, Chuck's not here today either, so I think we're going to be in a good spot. All right. Let's jump into the podcast. So, I've been at.
You're no longer the host.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I will now hand you over. Hand you over the hosting responsibilities. You can now put it in your Twitter bio.
Okay, so here's the way this would work. We go to every road game. We go to every game, obviously. So I've been going to all the games. Dan or Jenna goes with me to the road games. We all go to the home games. So it becomes a question of who's coming to shoot and to work at the games. We split it up. It has worked really well, but the games have become very interesting. And if you look at this year's schedule, it's very interesting, the trips. We have London. We have LA again. We have a South Florida trip that is not in September. Like, there are some trips out there. And then the Northeast trips. They could have done us a few favors, like ditch Washington and play at Dallas or the Giants. But the NFL didn't do that for us. Those are home games. Good for fans who are going to go to Orchard Park. But, there is a couple of, what would you say, dogs on the trip, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. At Washington, seriously. Worst stadium in the league. But somebody's going with me to Washington. So this is the way we're going to do it. Jenna, as the more senior, gets the first pick. Now, it's kind of, Victor Wembanyama or Connor Bedard. It's kind of known what the number one pick is, but she's gotten that right. So let's begin the 2023 Bills Travel Draft. Jenna Cottrell is on the clock. Jenna, what is the first pick?
I've studied the board. I've been up since 3 a.m. studying the board, going through the simulations. It's a shoo-in. I'm going London, abroad, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the Bills against the Jags. I'm going to be British Jenna, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, how you feeling about that?
Yeah, it was also, I will say we have had discussions behind the scenes on when this draft was going to happen. I will say Jenna offered this to me. She wanted to give me the first pick. And I said, no. Like, I want you to go to London. There was a little bit of back and forth. Baby number 2, as we talked about, will be here. So my wife wasn't thrilled about the possibility of me being out of the country for a week, as she's with a 3-year-old and like a 3-month-old. So I was very happy that Jenna got the first pick. Not great food though, Jenna. That's the only thing I think you got to be a little bit concerned about.
So I have family there, so they know the spots.
Oh,
We've already discussed. Oh yeah, might be a trip, maybe something.
What family's over there?
My cousin's cousin, like my cousins, but we're all close. It doesn't make sense, but I have a large family and everyone's close.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, almost everyone's close.
Yeah, I have my daughter's friends who are somewhat connected to British royalty live over there.
I've never heard you say that.
Yeah, well, you may meet them when we're on the trip.
You talk all the time and you've never said that before.
Yeah, she went to that wedding in Malta.
Whoa.
Yes.
You remember that? My daughter and her husband went? Yeah. Anyhow.
That looked beautiful.
And it was wild. So that may be part of the trip. Not relatives, but very close friends. The people that introduced my daughter and her husband. So there we go.
Oh.
All right. So that is the number 1 pick.
People
No
know.
surprise.
Yeah.
Connor Bedard, Victor Wembanyama,
I thought
also
it was
known as
Wembanyama.
London. Wembanyama. W-E-N. Banyama. Yeah.
I just feel like
Victor.
you're really like,
They call him Wemby, and he doesn't like it.
we'll
So,
go with Wemby.
all right. That's the number 1 pick. So it's off the board. Daniel Fates, you are on the board.
Also, Jenna and I go into some of these picks differently. Jenna is much more food and weather centric. I do like to factor in the magnitude of the game, like the bigger games. So I've been looking at this. Also, I get 2 picks here, correct?
Why do you get 2 picks?
Because you got London.
You couldn't go to London.
Whoa. I was getting 2
Why
picks.
would you get 2 picks?
100%. This was. Are you messing with me right now?
No, wait. I don't get why you would get 2 picks.
You got London. I got 2 picks, and then we would go alternating. Since when has that not been the case?
When would it be the case? Why would it be
Did
the
we
case?
do that last year?
No.
Microphone.
No, but I swear, I didn't know we were having this discussion. This is 100% was like,
Whoa,
you get the
stop
first pick, but
that.
I get the next 2.
I mean, Michael, I know you're.
We have to go to a judge here? This is ridiculous.
I
We've
didn't
had
think
this.
that was a thing. Why is that a thing? I mean,
'Cause
I
you
get
get
it.
to
I'm
go to
going to London,
London.
but I also, you can't go.
That's besides the point. You still get to go.
That doesn't factor in at all.
No. I get 2
Why?
picks.
What do you mean?
A few moments later.
All right, you get 2 picks.
That's fine. I don't want to.
No,
I didn't make that up out of thin air. We had this discussion of, it's you get London, but you can.
Listen,
I get
Michael,
the first
have you
2.
heard of this discussion?
I'm just the host.
Okay. I guess if we had the discussion, I don't remember it. Okay, go ahead. Make your picks. Start your first pick.
It's the Jets week 1. I want to go to New York.
Oh.
I'm going to go the Monday night. I want the opener. I want the bright lights, the Rodgers, everything.
Wow.
I want New York Jets week 1, season opener. I want the atmosphere that is that game. Also, it's not going to New York when it's November, December. So I will take the Jets week 1 against Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Huge game.
Yeah, that is a good game. That was one on my list for sure.
All right, you go. Your second round pick.
Okay. I mean, it's Miami.
Good pick.
It's Miami. Last game of the season in Miami. That could be for a lot.
Okay.
The food's good.
We don't know if that game's going to be on Saturday, Sunday. Could also be
it's
a game that nobody's playing. It is in Miami. Yeah. I mean, since it's week 17, that one's a long way off.
That was number 3 on my board.
Wow. I'm actually... Okay,
Again,
so can I guess number 2?
Places we haven't. You also want to do some places. It's weird that we have 2 divisional games pretty much go the top 2 picks outside of London. Like London doesn't count as a pick because it was just such the number 1. But to me, I had the Jets game as number 1, and I had the Dolphins game at number 3.
Okay, so you go.
This is maybe one that Jenna may not have taken. But I again, magnitude of everything. I will take Philly in week 12.
Oh,
wow. I did not want that game.
I know there was a possibility you didn't want that game, but I think that'll be a really one of those measuring stick games going up against the NFC champs. I think, again, I've never been to Philly at all. So like that'll be again someplace I've never been to see the link, things like that. So I'm excited about that game. Also, good casino there, Mike. Just want you to know that. This is where the draft gets weird. This is where the draft gets real weird.
Not for the sake of like making things overly dramatic, Michael. I was not expecting this.
No,
I don't know about you.
The board has changed dramatically.
The board has tremendously changed. Okay, so Dan, you have your Jets.
Dan just took Philly. Yeah, he's got the Jets and Philly.
Philly.
He probably has the two of the most marquee games on the schedule. Obviously, you got the other big conference games, but yeah. All right, Jenna.
This pick, I think this pick is going to surprise you, but I'm going Chiefs. Going Kansas City. It's after the bye week. We'll have some time to rest and relax. I actually do like the barbecue, and I feel like it's going to be a big game. It's always a big game when they play them. Yeah, I'm going Chiefs.
I didn't know if you'd go Kansas City or this other pick. I honestly wanted you to take one of them, so it freed up me to just take whichever one I wanted.
Yeah.
I think I know where Dan's going.
Where am I going, Mike?
You're going Cincy.
I am going Cincy.
Yeah, I figured as much. Honestly, I don't want to go to Cincy.
So Cincy will be emotional. It'll be a return there, which will be, I mean, Mike, you and I were there. We wanted to, we're there for 72 hours covering that. Will be definitely be, but I also think full circle moment to come back and see the game be played. And I know before, obviously the tragedy that happened, and now it's a happy story. That atmosphere was electric. Like that was one of the coolest pregame ceremonies that I had ever been a part of. Like the crowd was into it, lights, the whole 9 yards, really cool. Another marquee game that I think is going to be just an absolutely massive test for the Bills. So I'll take Cincinnati in week 9.
I think it's a much better scenario than if they would have been there for a playoff game. And I know fans weren't happy. Obviously, they lost the playoff game, but that would have been much too soon. I think it's still sort of jarring to go back in there, but now we're talking about close to a year later. So I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. All right, Jenny, you're back on the clock.
How many games do we have left?
So we still have New England, Washington, the Chargers.
That's it.
Okay. Hold on. Let me study my board again for real quick. I'll take LA.
Okay.
I want to see Justin Herbert. I didn't love LA, but I will say, like when we went out there last year, but I think it'll be having our bearings now, Mike. I think it'll be better.
Yeah, maybe it won't be 100 degrees.
Yeah, it was so hot. So hot. Wow. Again, not at all expecting this.
Jen and I both went back and forth over that LA game. Weird game.
Yes.
Weird.
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve Peacock game.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of a weird scenario, I think, for everybody. I'm imagining that all of the Chargers are on IR at that point of the season, so that'll be part of it. They will all be injured. Okay, so we have. I'm actually really happy with this pick because I think it's just comical, like to get Washington. I think it'll just be funny to be at one of the worst stadiums in the league. I also think there's a pretty good casino around the area.
You make fun of me for the food, but you are right up there with the casinos.
Yeah, so I'll take Washington.
Okay.
It is kind of funny because obviously we said baby number 2 on the way. My wife's on maternity leave through November, so she was also the one that was like, "Hey, if you could schedule more games early on in the season than later in the season, that works better." So it actually
I thought you wanted more games. Oh, I guess that makes sense.
Right,
Okay.
she's on.
Yeah.
Jen, I think your mic's off.
Is it?
Yeah. I can't stand these mic problems.
Can you hear me?
It's
it's
just
just
your
off
mic's
here.
not on. You're getting
This pod may take 4 years to edit.
Oh, there we go.
now
There
you're
you go.
better.
I don't know what happened there. Mike's rubbing off on all of us.
Jeez.
What other game is there?
That's it.
Nope,
Patriots
you got
game.
New England. Jenna gets New England.
So let me go through I'll go through the schedule here, the road games. Dan has the opening game Monday night.
I am so shocked you took that.
But
Real
that's
quick,
gonna be, yeah.
I immediately thought you would go Miami. Like I was
Really?
like, do I
Oh, I
take
thought,
Miami?
yeah, we thought Miami. At least I did.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought
I thought
Miami.
Miami too.
Miami is a risk. You know what the Jets game is.
Yeah,
And
it's
the
gonna be
Jets
great.
is loaded game.
Yeah.
I think I got 3 out of the 4 biggest games on the schedule.
They're at Cincy, at Philly, at the Jets.
Just call me Big Game Dan.
It is. It really is. I mean, first of all, they do have some good games. Like I said, I would have liked to have seen us go to New York for the Giants and go
Yes.
to Dallas. I think the Philly, I mean, for me, obviously, it's going back home, the Philly game, but I would have taken the Eagles coming in to go to those other places. It would have been fun. Washington is interesting. I mean, Washington's a cool city. You get to see other stuff, but
Yeah.
the stadium's terrible. At least Daniel Snyder's not the owner anymore, so that's good. But London is unique. I think the stadium
Yeah.
is the star of that game.
I agree.
And
I think that I know we talk. I don't know if we've talked about it on one of the pods, but everybody freaking out about the fact that the Jags are going to be there for 2 weeks, and everybody's saying how the Jags have this massive advantage because they won't have to travel and all this stuff. I think the Bills have a massive advantage in that game, just monumental advantage because those Jaguars players are going to be stuck overseas for coming on 13 days when they go to play the Bills or longer. Like, I think that for everybody that says, oh, they don't have to worry about the travel, like the Bills are going to travel in. I don't think they're going to go the whole week. It's kind of what we're hearing is just the fact that they will, players are used to, whether it's a cross country trip or a trip to London, like flying in, adjusting to the time change, playing football, going home. Those Jaguars players are going to adjust to the time change, play a football game, and then have to stay in another country for a week. They all want to go home. Like, from what I've heard from, I just think it's going to be a miserable week for them. I think the Bills catch them at a great time. I think that Jaguars team is going to be sneaky good. I think they're going to have a good record because that division is going to be horrendous. So I think the Bills catch them at a perfect time, honestly.
I agree. I mean, I think when some people are like, well, they're going to stay in the nicest hotels, like all that, I hear that piece, but I also agree with you where I feel like we've all been to a nice hotel. And once you're there, it is a work trip for them and they're going to want to get home. Like, that's just kind of how it works. So I do think that will factor in more. I kind of get why the Jags wanted to do that because you're not going to go back to back like that. But yeah, I think that there is an opportunity for the Bills over there. And honestly, like you talked about, Mike, I am so excited to see that stadium. Just
Yeah.
what that looks like and how that is going to be translated
into Buffalo. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking is how many good quarterbacks we're seeing on the road. I mean, I'm looking at this schedule. You got Tua and Herbert. I'm going from bottom up. Tua, Herbert, Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, Mac Jones, all the greats. Hey, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Like when you look at that schedule, seriously, their road schedule, and I'm not being a jerk saying this, the worst quarterback is obviously whoever's playing in Washington.
Yeah,
and then what? Mac Jones is the second
Yeah.
lowest rated quarterback, and he might certainly be decent this year, certainly with an actual coach. I mean, because otherwise, man, you're talking about Rodgers, Lawrence, Burrow, Hurts, Mahomes, Herbert, and Tua on the road. Whew.
Also,
I told you,
to
Mike, I
DC.
hate this Bills schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Easy
in
flights
just
to
in
DC.
terms of how hard it is and just all the all where we're going, all that stuff.
Yeah. Be good.
How you feeling?
I'm happy.
I'm shocked.
Really? You're still shocked from your CPR training. You're still shocked from.
Yeah. But like, I was not expecting that. Like, I
got a best friend in New York City. My best friend is there. He lives in Hoboken, so to be able to see him Monday night, I'm excited.
Yeah. And Miami's up in the air.
When would you guys go to New York?
Probably Saturday. The game's not till Monday.
Yeah. No, I know. I just wasn't sure.
All right.
And part of me is like, shouldn't we all go?
Now I got to talk to the boss about that. I know.
So that changes the picks. Then we got to do this whole draft over again. That's ridiculous. You can't nullify my number one. You can't nullify my first round pick. I just find out his medicals. I just find out he's got bad medicals.
Well, Dan, then you're coming to London with us too. And Renee and the kids.
If that's the case, I get Miami. That's it. I'm saying
That's
it right
fair.
now.
That would be fair.
That is fair, and I will agree
And we'll
with that.
flip. Okay. Wow. Some behind the scenes.
I'm just about to say, this is like breaking news. This is like the Vikings didn't get up to the pick. It's like the next team just ran up on the clock. Like, this is unbelievable.
I'm floating it out into the ether. Like,
I was the one that floated it out there too. I said, if we do pregame shows, Buffalo Plush show.
It's a drivable game. I mean, I have a place to stay in New York. It's also my best friend's birthday that day, on that Saturday. So that's why.
Shouldn't have taken London. Could you imagine London falls to 3? Like, what is going on?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, Mike, like I have to I was like, I take London first, or he's like, yeah, that's what you do, because we've discussed it, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, London is and for anybody who doesn't know, well, obviously London is a longer trip.
Yeah,
it is a very different. It's the one trip that stands out. So
yeah, I will say, Mike, you know where we're going, in London. It's my favorite museum in the world.
Oh.
The
yes.
Winston Churchill,
the Churchill
Museum
is
fantastic. Awesome. If you're a Bills fan, going to the game, it's fantastic. The way they did everything is really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I've been there twice. I look forward to going back.
Yeah. All right. I feel like I need to decompress. I got to text some people, let them know. Okay. All right. Let's go to the mailbag. Great questions. I know I said this earlier, but I'm always just impressed. All right, let's start with the first one. Andy writing in, do you think the Bills missed an opportunity to hire a DC from outside the organization? Bringing someone from outside brings a new perspective and also helps the players to refocus. The players have been listening to the same voices in the locker room for 4 years now, and sometimes change is good. P.S. Frazier's 1 year sabbatical is not real. He ain't coming back next year, which, yes, I would agree with that. I think we all would. But, Mike, I'll start with you. Do you think the Bills did miss the opportunity to hire a defensive coordinator from not in the organization?
I mean, I think you could say that they did if you really believe they wanted a change. I think they wanted an adjustment to the way the game is called. I think Sean McDermott, no question, wanted more control. I think it gets to the point where there's a level of frustration. I believe they went to, I think Leslie Frazier could have remained as the defensive coordinator, but things would have changed. I think they wanted it to change. And we all love Leslie, and I hope for the best for him. The question's correct. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
But I think they like their style. I think they need to adjust it. And I think there's going to be some changes on the defense starting at middle linebacker. So McDermott wants this. So they weren't going to look outside the building. And if they were going to bring anybody in, it was going to be somebody calling from a very similar style of defense than they did with McDermott and Leslie. So no major changes. And I think McDermott has wanted this.
Yeah, I think to the question, yes, new voices are good, and we talked about that before, where continuity only goes to a certain point and then it turns stale. But this isn't a defense that has really struggled. So it's whatever the voices are that are in the building are, and again, struggled in big moments at times. I get that, but still, since Sean McDermott has taken over, especially these last 3 to 4 years, they've been one of the top defenses in the league. So to sit there and say, like, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, I guess is kind of what I'm saying here, is that, like, the voices are, you know, good at getting the message across. In game planning, maybe specifically, they have struggled, but in the grand scheme, you kind of got to take a step back and look at what this defense has done, and to sit there and just be ready to throw everything that they've done and start over, I think is the wrong approach, especially with a team that is so close to being a Super Bowl contender. I think that what they wanted to do was kind of keep the thing going with maybe a guy different calling the plays. And that's what I think Sean wanted to take over more of. I don't think Leslie wanted to give up any of that. And that's how we had a late season split as we were right at the NFL Combine.
I feel like this is something that has been on McDermott's mind for years now. I think it was, you saw him in moments kind of take over the defense. And then when it was asked, is this Leslie's defense or your defense? It's like, well, it's Leslie's, but it's, it's one of those things where it was kind of, these are obviously McDermott's roots. And I'm surprised only because him taking over the DC responsibilities adds that much more to his plate. And I feel like you don't have the ability to have that scapegoat if the defense were to go awry.
Yeah.
But obviously that has been a stronger point of this team over the last 4 years. So when I look at it, I just feel like you see the tea leaves now looking back that McDermott wanted to have this type of control. And I hear that question from Andy, like to get a different perspective, all that stuff. Because I think I personally was kind of surprised when I was like, oh, it's McDermott taking over. But at the same point, once you have time for it to kind of settle in, it's like, yeah, the defense hasn't been the issue with this team. You're right, Dan. In moments, it has failed them. Yeah. But I think overall where the defense has been at, and I'm curious to see how much it now will change with McDermott and what that will look like. But I think for the team, it makes sense to have McDermott now. I wasn't expecting it, but Mike, I feel like it does make sense in terms of building off of what they've already accomplished.
Yeah. And I think Jen is right. I think you will see McDermott put his stamp on it. I think there'll be some things that are just different. And I think there's a tendency when we hear McDermott is aggressive, I think the knee-jerk reaction always is blitz. Like that's the only way to be aggressive on defense. There are many things a coach can do in terms of the type of coverage, the type of player, doing things like playing with one linebacker and maybe Taylor Rapp on the field, as we've talked about, more defensive backs. If there's a strength of this defense, they wanted it to be the D-line. Dan's talked about this a lot. It's really the amount of guys they have in the secondary. So get more of those guys on the field, honestly. So I think that's where we'll see from me. Hey, but we've also talked about this. He's added a level of pressure to himself. So go ahead and let's see what happens.
And that's one thing I wanted to talk about just real quick. I know we talked about the extension. Mike, you talked about the pressure that's on Sean McDermott. Jenny, you said there's no scapegoat if things don't go wrong, especially defensively, especially in those big moments where they kind of have come up short, right? Mm-hmm. There's a massive difference between pressure and hot seat. Like, I don't think there's a coach with more pressure on them this season than Sean McDermott. I guess I could say Robert Saleh is another guy that has a ton of pressure, but Sean McDermott is not getting fired this season. Hence the extension and all these things. Now, Robert Saleh is also in the hot seat, like to win and win now because of the Aaron Rodgers window. But like when I say, oh, if somebody says, wow, Sean McDermott has a ton of pressure on him, it's like, well, he's not getting fired. It's like, I didn't say that. I said that there's a difference between pressure and hot seat. Sean McDermott has a ton of pressure because of the expectations and where this Bills team is and how close they've gotten. Yeah. And there is a massive difference that Sean McDermott is not on the hot seat by any circumstance for the season. Now, Ken Dorsey is on the hot seat this season. That's the difference. Like, Sean's not coaching for his job or to prove anything. Yeah. He just has a lot of pressure on him because of the expectations.
I feel like it's got to be like a spectrum or like a barometer. Like pressure, and then if you go up, it continue as the temperature continues to rise, then it gets to hot seat. That's my Mike. You're shaking your head. You don't.
No, I agree with you. The only thing I will emphasize is what we say about in the NFL stands for not for long. Things can change, but I don't think this. You know, it's funny. I think is it Tom Pelissero was on Dan Patrick's show. And right away, Dan Patrick went with this national Colin Cowherd narrative that McDermott's on the hot seat. And I know there's some fans who think that too. And he just went through the list of things that happened last year. And we've done it multiple times here. But when you hear somebody from the outside explain all those things in terms of, you know, they were playing well, Josh got hurt, Von out for the season, then the DeMar Hamlin, all these things, and they still won that amount of games. Everybody's disappointed in the result. It's a big moment to then turn around and go, we're going to fire the head coach. But again, you never know. I guess a season could go totally haywire and they feel differently, but I don't expect that with Sean. I don't expect that with the Bagulas.
Correct. Yeah. And Mike, don't you always talk about, I always love it. It wasn't your quote, but you said the NFL is win or panic. And for right now, again, it's disappointing with the way the Bills seasons has ended the last 2 years and totally understandable. But this thought that like Sean McDermott's coaching for his job, like, no, but we just went through the schedule. We just talked about some of the teams they play, especially on the road and some quarterbacks, like pressure could mount into something. And to Jenny, your point, I agree that like it could mount into once the pressure cup runneth over, then it fills into the hot seat cup.
Yeah, I feel like it's a thermometer. Like the higher up the pressure, the more you get closer to the hot seat range. Yeah. All right, we'll go to the next question from Tina. My concern is, have they done enough to improve the O-line? All the weapons in the world can't fix a bad O-line. Josh needs time, and that's been a lot of his bad decisions in the past years. Love all your context. Great show. Dan, gray hair makes you look distinguished.
I didn't need to hear that. But thanks, Tina.
I was going to say, Dan, I'll start with you then, though. Do you think the team has done enough to improve the O-line?
No, but I think that they're working towards it. I think a big difference will be what is, Osiris Torrance, because we talked about it. I would have loved him in the first round. They were able to get him in the second round. Connor McGovern seems like one of those guys that people think very highly of, but we really haven't seen it. And look, last year, there's no getting around it. Roger Saffold, Pro Bowl Roger Saffold, wasn't very good, and neither was Spencer Brown. So if those positions can improve, also I think Deion Dawkins would admit that he needs to play a little bit better as well. So some of those things need to improve. And if Spencer Brown, I don't know if you guys know this, but he had a back injury that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have reminded us with, along with Gabe Davis, who had an ankle injury. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, but when if that was what it really was, and again, they didn't draft a tackle in this year, so they must have faith that Spencer Brown will return to more of how he played as a rookie. And so those things. So like you're kind of putting some faith into a rookie at guard and Connor McGovern, who hasn't really proven a ton as a starter in the NFL. So you're putting some faith in those. And then obviously they have a bunch of veterans that hopefully it's funny. Everybody loves, right, Mike? Everybody loves depth until you have to use it. It's like, oh, these guys are all depth. It's like, yeah, I don't want to see them on the field. Like it's one of those things. Like they talk about wide receivers, like, oh, Justin Shorter could really make an impact. If Justin Shorter's on the field for more than 15 plays this season offensively, the Bills are in big trouble. So I don't want to see any of these veteran linemen that they added, because that means their offensive line is decimated. So that's where I'm at.
I would agree. I would say it is the type of thing where you would say they have addressed it. Have they fixed it? Maybe. right? I mean, if those guys play well, I mean, there's a lot of ifs. There's certain guys you know how they're going to play. I think you made a good point about Dion. I think it was tough for him. I don't think he played great, but I also think the line was in a bit of flux last year. So, but she made. Did you say it was Tina? I'm trying. Yeah, great question. And I think she's right on the money. When it did impact Josh, he started to do things that you don't expect out of him, and he needs more confidence in his offensive line. That can come. Let's see. But I think that would make a massive difference for them. He's healthy. The line's better. The confidence is there. And honestly, it also helps Dorsey, because I don't care who your OC is, man. If you're not blocking, it makes everything a mess. But these things feed into each other. And I think she was right on the money with that.
Yeah, I agree. I also like the addressed bit of what you said, Mike, because I think that's the perfect way to put it. They have addressed what they think they need to improve on. But you're right. They're really panning on or banking on having some of these picks, as well as some of these other guys really, play well. And Spencer Brown is going to be fascinating to watch this season, because I feel like they have given him all of the leeway in the world, it has felt like. And if he continues to play the way we saw him play last year, at what point is it going to be, oh shit, we need to address this type of thing? So I'm curious to see how that will all play out, because if you want to talk about hot seat, I think externally the hot seat is on in terms of Spencer Brown and what he can do for this upcoming season. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next question. This one is from Kyle. Would really like to know updates on the CB2 position throughout camp, please. Keep up the great work, Buffalo Plus. So let's talk on it. Let's touch about it. Just the cornerback 2 slot. I mean, Mike, what do you make of the position battle that is that heading into camp?
Yeah, I think there really is a battle there. Look, the hope is that Trey is the unquestioned guy again, which I think when you start out, you say Trey's number 1. We hope he's the old Trey White, which would be phenomenal, but he's the most experienced, most successful player there. So
flip around the mug, Mike.
Oh.
On the ACL.
Oh.
No.
Yep. Well,
in terms of the other side, I'll put it to you this way. I think there can be a real competition. The Bernard and Elam thing to me is kind of fascinating. We saw them in the spring, or Benford. I was going to say Benford. We see them in the spring. Come on, it's just sort of setting everybody up to see what you do in camp, and then even in the preseason. Look what they did last year. I mean, who would have thought Benford was going to start the first game? And he did. He earned it. But I think Elam's got a shot. Dane Jackson is in the mix there. You some people pumping him up because he's been around. He knows the defense. But I look at it that way and say, to me, it's wide open. If I'm predicting now, if you said to me, who do I think is going to start on the opposite side? I'd still say it's Benford on the opposite side. I think he proved it as a rookie, and he'll be, if he's healthy, which he has been. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Elam step up. I want to, they're going to need 4 corners, because obviously we sometimes forget about Taron. He's their second best corner in that sense. But I don't know. Betting odds, Dan, I got Benford as the betting odd to be the number 2 guy.
Just to jump in real quick, Dan, like I hear you say that, Mike, and I'm like, Bills fans want to hear though that it's Kaiir Elam.
Yeah.
Like, he's that first round pick. You want him to become that guy, all this stuff. So I hear you when you say Benford, because I believe that as well. But it's like, man, that is tough to hear, Dan, when you think about what they invested in terms of draft capital.
Mike, I would set it as, betting odds to who starts at, CB2. Elam minus 125, Benford plus 150. Like I still think, and again, this is from somebody who says, I thought that Benford in the grand scheme of the season played better than Elam did. But at the end of the season, Elam was getting better. and he was turning into that guy that they thought, and maybe it took a little bit more time. Part of Elam playing better was Benford with an oblique injury, a hand injury, a wrist injury. Those kind of set back his season. But again, they traded up for Kaiir. I think they want him to be the guy. And for as much as their rookie seasons, they treat kids with kid gloves, these high picks. I think they are going to want to see Kaiir kind of jump up and be that guy. So I still think they would like it to be Kaiir, but I have said before that I think Benford is one of the best 11 defenders at a time, and he needs to be on the field. They need to find ways to get him on the field, whether it's safety, slot, corner, whatever it is, because I just think his length, versatility, speed, intangibles, all of those things. I love the guy. I think Benford is a star in the making. I really do. I think he can change this defense, but I think they want Kaiir to really be that guy.
Oh, they want Kaiir to be that guy. Because what is Benford, a 6th round draft pick?
Yep.
Yeah. Leave it at that. All right. Christy asking, when you have so many players trying to earn a spot like middle linebacker, would they try out a player for a day, then give next day to another, few days in a row for each to try it out? Have they ever had in the past a spot so wide open as this one? Who do you think earns that spot?
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And when we were talking to Bobby Babich, the linebackers coach, I tried to ask him in terms of, do you need to settle on a guy, or would you be able to use guys in different ways? And for those that don't know, I mean, the middle linebacker, not only that player, but he's calling the defense. So, Micah Hyde told us like we need a guy in there because we go as the middle linebacker goes in terms of getting him in the right spots. So I think I don't know how much they'll do of that. I think there'll be moments they do that, but I think they're going to try to go into camp early on with a few guys getting mix of reps, but I think pretty quickly they will settle on a guy that they believe is going to be in that spot and give him the number one spot. And, I think they think the rookie is the guy, Dan. I think they believe they can get him ready. And the fact that he's a rookie makes you go, okay. I mean, they did do that with Tremaine. He was a higher pick, but they just put him out there and work off of that. Because while you'd want to try a bunch of other players, somebody needs to get those reps and get everybody on the same page to what they want to do week in and week out.
So you think it's Dorian?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he's going to be the guy when we get to camp pretty quickly. There'll be a day, 3 days into camp, that it's like he's taking the number one reps. And then they see how he does.
I was going to make the joke that it has to be the youngest guy, but I...
That is good. That is good, Jenna. Jenna, who had that question again? What was her name?
Christy. Yeah.
Christy, great question. Because I think of what I think we'll see is I think you'll see Bernard and Dorian alternating a lot early on in camp because you already know what you have in Dodson and Klein because they have done it. So when you talk about Micah Hyde being like, we need to see, these guys need to, how do they command the huddle? So I don't know if it'll be alternating every single day, but I think early on in camp, you're going to see a lot of Dorian and you're going to see a lot of Terrell Bernard being the middle linebackers to see, okay, what is it like when they run with the ones? What's it like when they're looking their guys in the face and calling the plays and making the audibles and changing plays at the line and coverages? So because I think they already know that, like, hey, if this doesn't work out, they may give each guy 3-4 days. And then they'll say, okay, it didn't work. Not ready yet. And I think it's easy to pull the plug to go to Terrell or Tyrell and to go to an AJ Klein and to say, that's our guy because we know what he's done. They have filled in spots. They are used to coming in the middle of a game, looking those guys in the face in the huddle and saying, this is what we're doing. I'm here. We're good. The end. So that's where I think it goes. I think they're going to give the rookies, the young guys, every chance to prove themselves. And that if it doesn't meet, McDermott's standards and expectations, I think it's an easy switch to go to a veteran.
Jenna, I'm curious what you think, because I was going to say, I think it is 90% chance that it's one of those two guys as the starter. I think it'd be a defeat for them to have either one, Dodson or Klein, start the season unless there was injuries. I don't expect that to happen. I think either Bernard's going to win it, or they really like, I mean, obviously they brought Williams in. First they were saying, he's going to be on the outside, and then, he's going to work on the inside. They feel that I think he can handle taking on the responsibilities. Now the question is, can you take on those responsibilities and play? And being drafted two guys, second, one on the second day, one on the third day, if I'm right. Yeah. And I heard a wise man predict that Terrell Bernard was going to be the starter in 2023.
Whoa. What a callback.
Right?
Awesome. That would be awesome if I'm right.
We were walking from the far field towards the stadium field, and Dan made that prediction. And I was like, wow. And this is obviously before Tremaine had played the year and got the money and all that stuff.
Unbelievable.
That is
So
Nostradamus.
The hottest of hot takes.
I will say, in terms of the two younger guys, like I could see it being Bernard more because he's just had more time in the system. Like it makes sense that he would be more comfortable. You're right. Like you can call the plays and you might be confident in that. How do you show up on the field? But I think being able to be more confident and comfortable in the plays also equates to having that more of an instinctual feel on the field as opposed to kind of trying to process and react. But
I'll go with
Dan.
Here's mine for you, Mike. 50% Dodson, 30% Bernard, 20% Williams.
Interesting.
I think it's Dodson's job to lose. Again, this isn't an offense. This isn't a defense that is being revamped. This is part of why I wanted a bridge middle linebacker. I wanted a veteran to come in that could get ready. I don't think they're ready to necessarily hand it over. When they gave the defense to Tremaine Edmonds, he was young. I don't know if you knew this, but he was really young. And they were trying to figure out what they were defensively. Like they know who they are defensively. And Dodson has been a part of that and of who they have been in times and has played pretty well. So I think he's going to get the first crack at it. I think it's going to be his job to lose. And I think one of the rookies will be ready to take it from him in camp. But I just think, and listen, I would love to be right. Love to be right and have it be Terrell Bernard. Like that would be that was the hottest of hot takes.
Yeah.
Like that was inferno take. Like just unbelievable from the clouds. That would be great.
From the hip.
Like
that was shooting off the hip.
But Dan, you only said it because you totally believed it. You would never just do a hot take.
Never.
Throw it. Yeah. Could be right though.
Ooh,
Be phenomenal.
If that pans out,
you guys will never hear the end
I
of
would
it.
say you're going to be so insufferable.
But how about Dan, like hedging his bet, going with Dodson now? I mean, come on. Just lean into it.
Dan, you were made for TV and sports radio, I swear. You really were. All right. Final question from Sean. Who is this year's biggest breakout candidates? Dan, who comes to mind?
Biggest breakout.
Or Mike, whoever is ready to go.
Yeah, Mike, you go first because I'm not sure I got one right now.
Good, because I'm going to light a fire here.
No, don't do it.
Oh,
don't do it.
Gabriel Davis.
Burn it to the ground. Wow.
Contract year. He's healthy. I don't know if Dan had mentioned that he had some ankle issues. And he's sitting there watching everything going on, seeing them bring other guys in, all this kind of stuff. Gabriel Davis.
Interesting.
Dan, the floor is yours.
Dawson Knox. To get back on. Wait, is he not breakout enough for you, Michael? That eye roll, I felt it all the way over here in Irondequoit.
No, I think Dawson's going to be Dawson. I think Dawson's been pretty consistent as a really good player. And I think that's what he's going to be again. He's still going to be really good. But
Wow.
hey, you're entitled to your opinion, even when the ones that are wrong. That's fine.
I thought about taking a running back, but then I would just have to
Oh my gosh.
go play in traffic.
Jenna, who you got?
If I thought that
I'm
was
gonna
it.
go Kyer Elam.
Okay.
Probably pretty surprising, or maybe the CB2. We'll put it that way. But I feel like having a year both in the system, the intangibles that were mentioned, I feel like Kyer Elam really got a lot better, especially at the end of the year, and can build off of that going into this offseason and into this upcoming year. I just feel like the things were getting easier for him to recognize. What game was it? The Miami game? He had the interception.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think just like plays like that, having more like marquee plays like that, and just building his confidence up as well. Because I think it's been kind of touch and go, considering it's been kind of him and Benford, and I feel like I could see him, if he has and takes over that role, I could really feel that he could take that next big step.
Yeah. And the guy, if I was going to say somebody on defense, and they would love to see this happen, would be Greg Rousseau.
Yeah.
Especially early in the year
Gunpowder
before
and gasoline.
Yeah, before Vaughn is
10
back.
feet tall now.
Yeah. So
What about AJ Epinesa?
Best shape of his life.
Sorry, that was mean. That was mean. I was being mean. Gabe
Jenna.
Davis. I love it.
Gabe Davis.
I
would
actually
love
could
it.
see that though, Mike. I really could.
would love it. I would love it. Is Mike's typing something? This is bad.
no, not typing anything. Just making sure. We've got this on the record.
Put down the date, the time. All right. Anything else before?
Well, I keep showing these. I'm just letting people know. This is awesome. This is so good. It came in the mail the other day.
Show that Dan is wrong, the being hit by the camera. I'm sorry, Dan. I love that.
Like I hit by the football.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry.
I think that was a Peterman pass.
Of course it was. The pictures are just so Dan.
It's so good.
It's so
good. I wanna make a mug of me being tackled. I gotta figure out how to do that. I think that would be, my parents would definitely.
So let people know, Buffalo Plus store.
BuffaloPlusStore.com. I have a bunch of new merch up. Koozies. Love the koozies. Some new shirts, obviously some new mugs. Also a pint glass, which I think is pretty cool.
Your hat, the hat you're wearing, we can get a hat. Yeah.
Winter hats as well. I'm trying to think. Let me see. There was one thing that was also just added that I really liked.
Tumblers.
The tumblers are cool. Oh, if you have a baby or a baby bib.
Yes, I am bringing them to my granddaughters later this month.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, the tumblers cool. And then I do love the Dan is right, Dan is wrong. And then there's a great shirt that says throw the damn ball, that I just think in essence is everything that Dan faces.
And how about let James cook, where other people are trying to steal our t-shirt?
Oh,
we are such designers of the game that people are there is now black market Buffalo Plus merch that is
everybody has the Buffalo Plus logo on their shirts.
Yeah.
I will say, if anyone has a shirt idea or merch idea, we make it. So let us know and we can try to put something together if there's a bunch of interest. But BuffaloPlusStore.com, where to check out for your Buffalo Plus gear. All right, for Michael and Dan, I'm Jenna. Good draft, Dan.
Well
Gentleman
done.
shake. What does it say? Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment your thoughts on the draft, as well as what you think of what we had to say in terms of those questions that we answered. And thanks for joining us. I hope everyone has a fantastic, lot of vacations coming up. Myself included.
Vacation Jenna.
Vacation Jenna. Hey, I will wear that badge with honor, truly. Bless you. All right. We'll catch you next time here on Buffalo Plus. Thanks for joining us.